Have you ever visited any website on your mobile phone where the website basically doesn't fit the phone, and so you have to scroll horizontally to see the rest of the page? Or a website where the page is so zoomed out that you can't even read anything on the page? Well, as a web developer, it is your duty to make every website you build look good on every major device. So at this point of this HTML and CSS course, I'm going to teach you about responsive design using CSS Media Queries, which is basically a rule set that we use to make sure the websites we build look good on every device, including desktop, mobile phones, tablets, and so on. This is how a responsive website should look on a mobile device. As you can see, every text on the page is readable and everything fits the screen. As you've noticed, we do not have any horizontal scrolls anymore. Everything fits the screen and everything is visible at once on the screen. And that is how the website looks on desktop and laptop devices. As you can see, everything looks clean and readable as well. So let's go ahead and learn about media queries, and right after that we'll go ahead and build this mini project that we have here. I am back here on my desktop, and so I'll go into my HTML CSS course folder. I'll get into the section 4 of our course so far. I'll get into the practice, and here I'm going to create a project folder for our media queries. So I'll say media-queries, and I'll go ahead and drag that onto my Visual Studio Code icon here on my desktop, and this is what we have the project opened in VS Code. So let's go ahead and create our index HTML file. We need a style sheet, so we'll go ahead and create style.css file as well. Of course, we can go ahead, and this time, instead of me doing the colon and then tab or enter, I'm actually just going to type this out. Okay, so I'll have the doc type HTML. I'll have my HTML tag opening and closing. I'll have my head and body tags. Now in the head, I'll just have a title that will say media queries. Below the title, I'll go ahead and have my link. Below the title, I'll go ahead and have my link, and I will link that to the style sheet. That's the style.css. Below the head, I'll go ahead and have my body opening and closing tags, and this is what we have. Right now we can use our go live here to launch this on the live server, and this is what we have. Right now, to have something on the page, let's go ahead and just have an h1. I'll say CSS Media Queries. I'll save that, and immediately we get a reload. And below the h1, I'll just have some dummy text, so I just do lorem. I'll load, and this is what we have. Now I'll go ahead and zoom in to 150%, just so you see what we have on the page, and this is what we have so far. So as I said, media queries make you set rules for different media or different types of media, right? So we can get into our CSS and have some media queries right away. And so to have a media query rule set, you go ahead and have the @ symbol and then media. And we have different types of media. We have print, and you use this when you want to set some rule set for print. We have screen, which includes mobile phones, tablets, any screen that you build your websites for. You set those rules inside of the screen. And we have all, and this includes both print and screens. Okay, so mostly you are going to use the all type, but let's go ahead and learn about the print. So at media, you have your space and then you type print, and now you can go ahead and have the rules that you want or the different style that you want your website to look on a print. I hope that makes sense. So let's go ahead and say on prints, we want the body to have a color of blue, and I'll save this. And now once I come to the page, you see we do not have the blue color for the text that we have. But then if I do Control P, you can see the text now is blue, right? I'll cancel this. I'll come back. If I remove the color property that I set in here, come back and do Control P again to preview this on a print. You can see now we have exactly what we have on the page for print. Okay, but then if I uncomment that, come back again, Control P, I have the blue. I hope that makes sense. Right now we can go ahead and do more. We can say the font family for print should be Arial, and once I do so, come back, Control P. Now we have Arial font family for print preview. You can go ahead and say the font size should be 2 rem for print, and once you do, come back to your page, Control P. Now there's going to be 2 rem, which is 32 pixels, because as you remember from the unit, 2 rem means 2 times 16 pixels. I hope that makes sense. Right, by default, that is what it is. So that is for print, and most likely we are not going to use this print type very much. We are mostly going to use the screen or the or, which affects the print as well. Okay, so if I do or, come back, then you can see that we have the, let me go ahead and actually zoom out here to 100%, which is the default zoom. And now once I do Control P, I'm still going to have the color. Okay, I'm going to have the text color of blue, because the type of all affects both screen media type and the print media type. I hope that makes sense. So mostly we are going to use the all type or the screen type. So if I do screen right here, come back to the page. Of course, I should have the blue text color for my font. But then if I do Control P, now I have black. Okay, and the styles that I have here does not affect the print. As you can see, the font family here is actually the default font family instead of the one that I just set here, which is the Arial. But I suggest you get used to the all, since it affects both the screen and the print type. Right, so of course we should have the blue and the the Arial font family here on the screen or on the page. But then if I preview for print, I should have the same thing, because I'm using the all type, which affects both print and the screen. And sometimes people don't set the media type at all. Okay, so they don't set the print, the screen, or the all type. They just omit it. And in that case, if you don't set it, it defaults to all. And so if I save this, come back to the page, I still have the styles. And if I preview for print, I should still have it. Right, so by default, if you don't set any type, any media type, it defaults to the all type. So that is the different types of media that we have in CSS3 media queries. We are not restricted to only having the type of media. We also can have the feature of the media. And to add the feature to the type, you use the end command. So end, and then in brackets, you go ahead and have the feature. And for the features, we have, the height, the width, the orientation, that is landscape or portrait, and so on. Okay, we have main height, main width, max height, and max width as well. All right, so in this case, I'm going to set the feature to be max width, so a maximum width of 600 pixels. So now we have the type set to all, and we have this feature right here, which means the media should be 600 pixels or below. That is, the maximum width of the media should be 600 pixels or below before these styles that we have should take place, right? So let's save this, come back to the page, and now you can see nothing happens. But then if I go ahead to actually make this smaller, and I'll keep making it smaller until we get to 600 pixels width or below. Okay, right here is the breakpoint for 600 pixels or below, and that is when these styles that we have in this media queries take place. Now, just like max width, we can do min width as well. So in this case, it's going to be 600 pixels and above, right? So if I save this and come back to the page, you can see we have the default styles. And now once I make this width bigger and it hits 600 pixels and above, then the styles that we have in this media queries kick in. We are not restricted to just main width and main height. We can do orientation as well, as I said. And so I'm just going to go ahead and should I even, you know what? I'm just going to change this to orientation. For orientation, we have two options, that is landscape and portrait. And right now you can see on the page that this is landscape, right? So landscape just means the width is longer than the height. Okay, so for orientation, we can do landscape and nothing should happen. So for landscape, these styles should take place, right? So I'll save this, come back to the page, nothing happens. Okay. But then if I shrink this until the width is lower than the height, then we are going to default. Okay, so I'll shrink and there we have it. Okay, so right here is the breakpoint, and that is the styles that we have for the portrait, which is the default styles. But then if we expand this to the landscape, or if we expand till the width is now higher than the height, then we have the styles that we have for the landscape. I hope that makes sense. Now if I do portrait, then the opposite is going to happen, of course, and there we have it. So portrait just means the width should be lower than the height, and there we have it. Okay, so for portrait, the height is longer than the width. That is for portrait, and there we have that. Now we are not restricted to only one feature. We can add more features. So in this case, I can say if we are on portrait and the maximum width is, let's say, 400 pixels, then these styles should kick in. Okay, so I can of course go ahead, and although we are in portrait, nothing happens. Okay, these styles are not working. We have to go ahead and have a maximum width of 400 pixels, and now it is not going any further. That is because the content on the page is too much. I'm just going to go ahead and comment the text that we have for the paragraph. Okay, and now I'll go ahead and shrink. Okay, it's still not going. All right, so you know what, let me uncomment this back, and probably I should make this 500 because my browser doesn't want to go any more than 500 pixels, right? So now as you can see, that's what we have. Okay, right on the spot. So for 500 pixels and below, and on portrait, we should have these styles, right? Now we can have an or. So instead of the and, we can have or. And for the or, you do not have the or word, but then you use a comma. Okay, so this means that we should be on all media, and the orientation has to be portrait, or we should have a maximum width of 500 pixels. And now once I save and I come back, this should work because one is correct, and that is the 500 pixels. But then if I expand it, you can see that it still works because we are still on portrait. But then if I go ahead to change this to landscape, then it is not going to work because there is no landscape, which basically means none of these two are correct. And so these styles are not going to take effect. But then if I shrink it to 500 pixels and below, I should have these styles, right? Once it gets bigger than 500 pixels, I lose the styles until I hit the landscape rule that I have for the orientation. I hope that makes sense. So I just expand it, and now there's landscape, and that is why we have the styles back. So these are some of the rules that you can set for media queries. Now, for the most part, you are not going to have, multiple features set at the same time. you probably will have a media queries for your mobile devices, and so you set media or at media, or and then you do and maximum width, and then you set standard width for mobile phones around 600 pixels, and then you go ahead and you have the rules for mobile, come on, mobile devices, like that. And then you go ahead, have another media for tablets, and let's say if tablets are around 600 pixels width for the dimension, then you can go ahead and have the rules for tablets. Usually that's how you do it. You do not you know join different rules and then have the same style for those rules, right? So usually that's how you have your different rules for the different breakpoints we have in web development. Now there is another important thing that I will teach you very soon, but then I want us to start the mini projects, and then once we are working on that, we are going to learn more about media queries. For instance, we need to add a meta tag here in the head section of our HTML, but I want us to start building the mini project so that you learn more about how to practically make your website responsive. So I'll go ahead and close this current project, and I'm back here in my section 4 practice. Now I'm going to create, what, let's get into the section 4 folder. Okay, and in here I'm going to create another folder called exercises, or you can call it projects if you want. And I'll get into the exercises folder and create a project here called media queries. I'll just right click on this and open that with VS Code right here. And of course, we should go ahead and have our two files, index.html and style CSS. And here too, I'm not going to do the exclamation tab, but instead I'm going to do doc type. And you are going to understand that, very soon. I just want to keep something as a surprise for you, and not necessarily as a surprise, but I don't want any spoiler in this project. All right, so let's go ahead and have the HTML opening and closing tags. We have our head, opening and closing. I'll have my title, CSS Media Queries project here. That should make more sense. I'll have my link to the style sheet, and below the header, of course, we should have our body. Then I have some images that we are going to use, so I'll just drag them onto our project. So I just drag these images on here, and these are the images we are going to use. Nothing special. I always forget my lang attribute of English. I'm going to have a navbar, a very simple navbar, and so I'll have that inside a nav tag, which is an HTML5 semantic tag, and in there I'll just have a link, and this will just refresh the page. So index HTML, then here I'm going to say gato. All right, you can do home, it doesn't really matter, but I want to have my logo there, my brand. Right below the nav, I'm going to have a header, which is also an HTML5 semantic tag. We've already learned about semantic tags in the course already, and so we'll have an H1 in here as well. We will say CSS Media Queries, and below the H1 I'll have a paragraph with lorem. You know what, I'll have something more meaningful, and so I'll go ahead and paste something in here. So I'll just paste this. Let me actually minimize or hide the sidebar that we have, or the side panel that we have, and that is all we need for the header. And so I'll go ahead below the header and have a section. Right, so let me have some space between these elements. I'll have a section here, And notice I'm not using any special CSS selectors like classes or IDs, right? And that is because there is a very minimal page, and so we can use, the child parent relationship to actually select elements. So in here in this section, I'm going to have an article, and in the article, I'm going to have an image. So let's go ahead and actually select our first image. Below the image, I'm going to have an H3, and I'll just say article 1. Come on, I can't type. Below the H3, I'm going to have a paragraph, and so I'll just do lorem to have some dummy text. And so I think I'll just duplicate this article twice. So Shift Alt and then the down arrow 2 times should duplicate that twice. And I can just change the content. So I'll have the second image here. I'll keep the paragraph, but in the title, that's the H3 heading, I'll change that to article 2. I'll do same for the third article, and the image here will be block 3. So I'll save this, come back to the, okay, so we should go live here, and this should launch our web page on our default browser, and this is what we have so far. Perfect. All right, so let's head into the CSS. Of course, it is already linked, and so we can go ahead and just style. We have two approaches when it comes to responsive design with CSS. We have the desktop first approach and the mobile first approach. So with the desktop first approach, you just go ahead, just like we have been doing so far. You type out all the styles that you want, or however you want your web page to look like. You go ahead, you have the CSS for that, and then you go ahead to declare the CSS or the media query for the mobile device. That is the desktop first approach. And for the mobile first approach, you target the mobile device first. All right, so the styles that you have from the beginning of the CSS are all going to be directed towards the mobile dimension or the mobile device screen. And then once you are done with that, you have the media query for the bigger or larger devices like tablets, desktop, and you have the styles for those in the media queries that you declare for them. I hope that makes sense. In this case, we are going to target the desktop first, or we are going to use the desktop first approach, and then later on we will do the mobile first approach. All right, so with the desktop first, we can just go ahead, and of course that's what we've been doing so far throughout the course. So we can just target every element and zero out the margins and patterns. So margin 0, pattern 0, and of course box sizing, very important, should be border box. And now I'll come back to the page. This is what we have. I'll go ahead and target the body and give it a font family of Arial. I'll do font size to be 1.3 rem. The ROM unit, we have talked about that in the course. And I'll do 1.5 for the line height. So I'll save, and this is what we have so far. That's enough for the body. I'll target the nav element, which is our navigation with the link right here. I'll target that, and I'll give it a background of something bluish. So I'll just do blue and go ahead to select something decent. I think that should be good. I'll save, and that's what we have. Now the text is not very visible, and so I'll just go ahead. That's the link, right? So I'll just, you know what, let me just give it a pattern of 1 rem and text align that to the center before I target the link. So nav and the link inside of it, in this case we only have one link, but if we had multiple links as descendants, then we would select them like this. If you wanted to select the direct link, that's how you select it, or the direct child, that's how you select it. But in this case, we are selecting every link, and we do have only one link, so it's going to affect only that link. I hope I'm making some sense. Now let's give that a color of white. I'll save, come back, and we do have it. I want to remove the underline, so we will do text in decoration of none. I'll save, and this is what we have. Of course, you can go ahead and give it font weight as well of 700 to make it bold. And I think that should be enough for our nav. Now let's target the next element, that is the header right here. Let's target that. So let's see what we can do here. We only have the H1 and this paragraph, so that shouldn't be too much. I'll just give that a background as well, and for this I'll just copy this background right here and have a lighter version of it. I will save. That should be perfect. So I'll make it a little bit lighter. Okay, that should be good. I'll go ahead and give it a height of 30 rem and a padding of 10 rem. I'll save, and that's what we have for our heading. And I think that should be enough. I'll go ahead and, you know what, I want some space or some more space between the paragraph and the heading, or the H1. Okay, so I'll get the paragraph, that's the header paragraph, and give it a margin top of 1 rem. And there we have some margin. Now that should be enough for the header, and so let's go ahead and target the section, which is the next part of the page. The section is below the header, and so let's target that. And as you know, we have 3 articles in the section element as direct children. All right, so let's target the section, and first of all, we should have some space between that and the header. So I'll give it a margin all around. A margin of 4 rem should be good, which should push it from the size of the page as well. Perfect. Now I'll go ahead and target the articles inside of the section element. I'll give them display of inline block. That is because I want them to be side by side, and for now they are not side by side because they are taking 100% of their parent width, and so I'll give them a width of 30%, and now they should be side by side. But then you can see that the images are overflowing. Okay, they are overflowing the article elements. Notice the images are inside of the article, they are overflowing. So I'll just go ahead and, I'll do section, article, and then the image. I'll go ahead and give them a width of 100%. I'll save that, and now that's what we have. There's too much space left here, and that is because we are giving each article 30% width, and so we have 10% right here. Okay, so to make this fit, I'm just going to give a margin on 2 of the articles. That's the second article and the third article, right? I'll do a margin left on them, right? So I'll go ahead and select, I'll select the nth of type, okay, right here, where is a pseudo selector, and I'm going to select the second element. So nth of type, of course I'm selecting the articles inside of this section, right? So nth of type article, and I'm selecting the second article. So in this case, I want to give the second article a margin on the left, and I'm going to do 4.5%. Okay, so now we do have a margin on the left of the second article. I want to target the third article as well, so I have this, and that should have a margin on the left as well. So this is the desktop style for our web page, and this is the desktop approach, or the desktop first approach for responsive designs. And now we have to have media queries for our tablet device and our mobile device, and that is because right now, if I make this smaller, you can see we do have some overflows. So this right here is about the size of a tablet. And if your website looks like this on a tablet, then you have a huge problem, right? You want your website to look good on tablets and mobile phones. And so we have to have the media queries for tablets, and then you have media queries for mobile phones. At media, sorry, at media like that, I'll target all media types and a maximum width of 600 pixels and below. Okay, so any device with a maximum width dimension of 600 pixels or below is going to have these styles that we are going to put in here. I'll make this smaller just so we have the mobile device view here on the side. And so on mobile phone, this looks horrible. As you can see, the text from the header is overflowing into our section here with the articles. And so let's go ahead and actually make this look good. I'll make the VS Code smaller just so you can see everything. So on mobile devices, that is for devices with a width of 600 pixels or below, we are going to target the header and we are going to change the padding to be 2 rem. Remember we had a padding of 10 rem on desktop devices, but here for 600 pixels width or below, we should have a padding of just 2 rem. And now I'm going to save with Ctrl S, and once I do, this is what we have. I'll come up here back to the desktop style for the header, and as you can see we had a fixed height of 30 rem. Okay, now if I come back here, and that is in the HTML, and I set the paragraph or add more text to the paragraph, let's do lorem 77, you can see that there's still, overflows, which is something you do not want, right? So what I'm going to do here in the media queries is to set the height of the header to be 100%. Right now, if I save, it fits 100% of its content. But then if the content is more than what we have right now, that is if I have more content in the paragraph, you can see that still it fits the content perfectly without any overflows. I hope that makes sense. Now there is too much. I just wanted to show you that, so I'll just go ahead and remove the extra text in the paragraph. Now I'll go ahead and target the H1 inside of the header and give that a line height of 1.1, and I think we are done with the header. Okay, so I'll go ahead and target the section. And what we can do here is to zero out the margin that we gave to the section. Okay, so once I do that, that's what we have. We do not have any extra margins on the section, and so I'll go ahead and target the article elements and then make them bigger. Remember we gave them a width of 30% here on the desktop styles, and so I'll select them here, so section article, and I'll give them a width of 100%. And once I do that, this is what we have so far. We still have some scrolls, and that is exactly what we are trying to avoid. You never want to have horizontal scrolls on your website. And we have those scrolls because of the margins we gave to the left of our second and third articles, right? Remember we selected them and gave them a margin left of 4.5% each. So I'll go ahead and target them and remove the margins. Okay, so margin left of 0 and margin left of 0 for the third one as well. And now we do not have that scroll, that horizontal scroll. As you can see, that is gone. Perfect. Now I think the last thing I would like to have is just a little space between the articles. Okay, so and have a margin bottom of 2 rem on each article, and that should be enough. And maybe I can have some padding here on this section, a padding of 0.7 rem. And maybe, you know what, I'll give it a margin at the top as well. Okay, so a margin top of 2 rem, that should be enough, or maybe 3 rem, that should be perfect. And now this is what we have on mobile. So this is how the website looks on mobile device now. And once I expand it to desktop, then this is how it looks. Okay, so as you can see, right around here, it still doesn't look good because we have the overflow right here until we hit that, you know, that 600 pixels and below. That is when we have the styles that we just said for the media queries. Okay, so you know what, I'll just go ahead and have just a few lines of media queries for tablets. Okay, so I'll say media queries for tablets. So that would be medium devices, right? I'll just say phones. I'll go ahead and expand it to where, you know, we have the overflow right here, maybe even right here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and have this, and so I'll say add media and max width, and that should be around 900 pixels maybe. Oh, I should have the type, so I'll do all. And here I'm going to target the header and give it a height of 100%. And once I do, you can see that this actually fits. And maybe for the pattern, I can do something here as well, maybe a pattern of 5 rem, reducing it from the original pattern of 10 rem. Okay, so there we have the pattern. Now for the section, I can do something here as well. So I'll go ahead and select the section, and just like I did for the mobile, you know what, I'll select the articles inside of the section, right? So let me go ahead and select the article, and I'll give them a width of 50% here on maybe 46%. Yep. And now we have these two on the side, and we have this down here. Okay, so I can just target the section article. I'll remove the margin left by setting all the margins around it to 0, and I'll give it a margin top of around 2 rem. I'll save, and that's what I have on tablet. Now the placement of your media queries also matter. And to demonstrate this, or to make you understand this, I'm going to go ahead and cut the media queries for the tablets. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and I'm going to paste that below the media queries of the mobile devices. All right, so I'll just paste that here, and now I'll go ahead and get to the mobile view. That's around 600 pixels and below. And once I do, remember this around 600 pixels and below, right? And instead of us having the styles that we declared for the mobile view or the 600 pixels and below, we are getting the styles for the tablets instead. And that is because how you declare or how you set your media queries matter. So if you're using the desktop first approach for your website, then once we get to the media queries, you have to go to the device width that is right below the desktop width, right? So in this case, that would be a tablet view. And so that is why you have to have, or that is why I placed the tablet media queries right below the default styling, which is the desktop styling. Okay, and now as you can see, as I brought it back up, we have the styles for the mobile phones. Okay, basically the styling cascade. So if you have your article width set to 46% here, then that means you are overwriting it here in the mobile media queries. Okay, so be very mindful when declaring your or when writing your media query rules. If you are using the desktop first approach, then go ahead, have all the styles that you want, which is the normal way we've been writing our code so far without the media queries. Go ahead and design your website for the desktop. And once you are done, you target the width that is right below the desktop. Okay, so the width smaller than the desktop or right below the desktop will be the tablet. And so you go ahead and you target the tablet, or you have the media queries for the tablet device, right? So once you go lower on the width, you have the styles for the tablets, which is this right here. Okay, so this is the styles for the tablets right here, and that's the big point. And once you are done with the tablets, you go below the tablet media queries and then you declare the media queries for mobile phones, right? So with that, once you shrink to 600 pixels or below, then you do have the styles for the mobile phones as you see here. I hope that makes sense. And so make sure you have this in order. You have your tablet before your mobile phones on the desktop first approach to media queries. Now let me introduce you to a tag that is very, very important when it comes to media queries. And that is the meta tag. And to have a meta tag, that is of course in the HTML, that is where we have elements and tags. And so to have a meta tag, we just do less than, just like any other HTML element, and then meta. And there's a self-closing tag, and so you can just close it with a greater than sign. Or usually for any self-closing, you use the / and then the greater than sign. Now you may ask why this is important. Well, because we can use that to actually make our website really responsive. Although we have set the media queries for different device width, let's go ahead and actually view this on a real device. Okay, so we can use the browser to actually view how the website is going to look on different devices. And so just right click anywhere on the web page and select inspect or click inspect. Now go ahead and click this icon right here, which will help us view this on a mobile. It toggles between desktop view and mobile view. So let's go ahead and click to actually view this on a mobile device or a mobile render. So I just click, and now although the width here, as you can see, the width is 414, which is exactly below the 600 pixel that we set. Okay, so this right here should give us the styles that we declared for our CSS media queries, but here you can see it is actually giving us something else. And to prevent this from happening, you use the meta tag. So let's go ahead and give our tag some attributes, and the first attribute is the name attribute, and the name is going to be viewport. The next attribute we need here is the content attribute. So you just do content, and the content you should have here, and this should be exactly what I'm going to type. So width should be equal to the device width. You have your comma, and then initial scale, we are going to set that to 1.0. So make sure you have exactly this. You save your HTML, come back to the page, and now you can see this is what we have. Okay, this is what we have, which is exactly how we want our website to look on mobile phones. So I'll just come back to the HTML and I'll comment out the meta. I'll save, come back, and this is how it looks now. And that is how you have scrolls on some websites without the media queries. And if I go ahead and actually refresh the page, we still have the scroll, that's the horizontal scroll. And you never want this. Okay, you always want to make sure the website fits on different devices, and that is why you always want to have your meta tag, that's the viewport meta tag, in your HTML head. Right, so I'll save that, and now this should of course fit, and now we do not have the horizontal scroll. So make sure you keep this meta tag in mind. We are going to learn more about the different meta tags you can have in your HTML head, but for now, this is the viewport meta tag, which helps you with responsive design and media queries. And when it comes to the devices that you can view, or you can render, or you can preview your website on, to actually make sure they are responsive before you deploy them or you put them on the internet, you have a variety here that you can select from. Okay, so as you can see, you just click this drop down and you can go ahead to select any device to see how your website is going to look on that screen size or on that device, right? So I can choose iPhone 12 Pro Max right here, and this is how the website is going to look on iPhone 12 Pro Max. I can choose, Pixel 7, and this is how the website is going to look on Pixel 7. I can choose an iPad Pro, and so you can see that the style or the media queries we declared for tablets are here. Okay, it's working here. Of course, I can go ahead and choose, a different screen size, and there's a phone, Galaxy. I can choose Nest Hub. So you can choose different devices, okay? But one cool thing you can also do is to actually create a custom device, okay? So let's say you have a different phone that is not on the list and you want to have a custom width to match the phone, okay? To match your phone, to make sure the website looks good on your phone when deployed. You can go ahead and search your phone dimensions, okay? So I'm using iPhone 15, so I can do iPhone 15 dimensions. I have to make sure my internet is actually connected, and I should do that right now. All right, so now my internet is connected. I'm going to hit enter again to make sure I get the iPhone 15 dimensions. And so wait a minute, iPhone 15 dimensions in pixels. Okay, so right here they are saying the viewport size or the number of CSS pixels is 393 by 852. So I'll grab the width, that's 393, and I'll paste that right here. And then I'll come back, grab the height, I'll paste that right here as well. And I'll name this device. Okay, so I'll say my 15 Pro Max. 15 Pro Max is what I'm trying to search. Right, so yeah, so 460 by what? Yeah, by 932. That makes more sense. So my 15 Pro Max, that's the name I've given it, and that should be enough. I can go ahead and add this device, and now once I select, I can have my own device. Okay, so I'll choose my 15 Pro Max, and now this is exactly how the website will look on my mobile phone when it's deployed or when I put it online. Sometimes your website can be very long, and in that case you may want to remove or cut your media queries and put them in a new file or in a different file. Right, so let's try doing that here. So I can just go ahead and create a new file for my media queries. So I can call this style-media.css. This is still a CSS file, okay? And then paste my media queries, right? I have my tablet media queries and my phone media queries. So with this, I have to come back to my HTML, and after the normal CSS file, that is the style.css file, I'm going to have a link to the style-media.css. Okay, and make sure that comes after your main file. And now if I save, come back to the page, everything should still work the same. Okay, if I go ahead and comment that out, save, now we have a mess, right? I'll uncomment that, I'll save, and everything is back to normal. All right, so you are not restricted to having your media queries in the same file. You can remove them or cut them and place them in a new file and add that below your main CSS file in the HTML document. Now, sometimes you may want to have your tablet media queries in a separate file and your mobile phone or smaller media queries in another file. Right, so in that case, you may want to create different files for those two separate media queries. And so you can have style-phone.css, and that will be where you have your media queries for mobile phones. And in this case, you do not set the media rule, but rather you just have all the changes that you want to make, and then paste them in the CSS file, that's the style-phone.css, and you can remove this now. And for the tablets, you can cut all the styles that you want for the tablet media queries. And so I'm going to delete the style media CSS. We do not need that anymore, but I am going to create style-tablet.css, and I'll paste the style for the tablets. And now I'll come back to the HTML file. I'll remove the media CSS, and now I'll have a link to the tablet first, so style-tablet.css. I'll duplicate that, and I'll have style.phone.css. But notice this will not work just yet. Once I save, come back, reload. For you to really see that it is not working, I'm going to go to the the bigger, right here. As you can see, we still have the mobile styles for the desktop, which is not what we want. So what you can do is to set the media rules here. So for the tablets, we had max width of what, 950, I think, pixels. That was the rule for the tablets. And for the mobile phone, we had or for the type of media and the maximum width of 600 pixels, right? And now once I save, come back, we do have the original styles we had for the desktop. And if I go to the mobile view, we do have the mobile styles. And if I come to the tablets, we do have the tablet styles. Okay, of course we can choose an actual tablet device, and this is what we have. Perfect. Okay, so the styles that I was worrying about in the tablet actually works. That is the margin top, and so everything is literally working. Okay, so this is how the website looks on tablet. This is how it looks on our iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this is how it looks on desktop devices.